It is 10 a.m., so I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'm just going to note for the record that I see Commissioner Weatherall and Commissioner Wilkins on Zoom. I'm here as well, so that is a quorum. And we'll do 2.0, which is additions and revisions to the agenda. Did you guys have anything?
Nope.
Okay. And then we'll do correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. For those who dialed in on their phone, to unmute yourself, you just push *6. And then if you dialed in via the Zoom platform, then your unmute button is in the lower left-hand side of the screen. So is there any public comments? And I will say, as I do during all of our meetings, that we're pretty informal around here. So feel free, as we work through the agenda, if you have questions or things that you want to throw out or comments, we're happy to accommodate those as well. But for now, any public comments? Not that I'm seeing. Okay, so under correspondence, I just have one letter that I wanted to note for the record. This came from Eileen Potter with the Gilliam County Historical Society, just thanking Gilliam County for the capital investment grant that we approved for their museum expansion project. So I won't read it all the way through, but they said that they have awarded a contract with a local contractor to move forward with building the building. And so it looks like that project is moving forward. And for those who want to see the full letter, that's available on the county court's website with our other agenda materials. We'll move into 4.0, which is the consent agenda.
Did you have any questions about the consent agenda, Commissioner Weatherall?
I did not.
I did not either, so I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Before we actually take the vote on it, though, I see Amy's on here, and I wonder if she might just want to make a note. The Project LEAP thing that's on the agenda is actually a pretty cool preventative resource that Amy is participating in. So I don't know, Amy, if you wanted to just give like 2-3 sentences, 30 seconds on what it is, and so that the public knows what you're working on.
Sure, thank you, Judge. It's a research study that is being conducted, and it's really tailored towards rural communities. A lot of these research studies can't have us participate because we don't have high caseloads. They have a hard time with like comparison and data with our small counties, but this one we can participate in. And so they're looking for, I believe it's 30 counties throughout Oregon and Idaho. They'll expand to Washington if they need to. And what it is, it's an evidence-based practice in the medical field that works with parents on helping them with some trouble areas they have around parenting, behavioral issues with their children. They identify the trouble they're having, then you pick their top 1 or 2 concerns, and then you start working with them, kind of like some parent education to help them with these areas. And if it turns out to be as effective in the juvenile justice field as it has been in the medical field, it's going to be a great resource, especially for our small counties where we don't always have parenting classes or other resources for our families. It's something that I can do. It takes like 15 minutes when I'm already meeting with the youth anyway. Just take a few minutes at the end to meet with the family. And they do all the training and everything for free. So I think it's a great opportunity for the juvenile department.
I think it's great. Another resource for our families is always a good thing. So I just wanted to give Amy that opportunity so the public knew what we were up to. So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of November 18th regular meeting minutes, consider approval of November bills pending review, consider approval of Project LEAP Memorandum of Agreement, and consider appointment of J.D. Deen, Ann Deen, Mike Cronk, Shirley Ludlow, Riley Bennet, and Jerilyn Bennet to the Gilliam County Transportation Advisory Board, effective January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, let me just shuffle my papers really quick because I have a script I need to read. We're going to be moving into an executive session under ORS 192.660 2H, consultation with legal counsel concerning legal rights regarding litigation likely to be filed. The Gilliam County Court will now enter into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660 2H, which allows the court to meet in executive session to consult with legal counsel concerning the county's legal rights regarding current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff will be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to remain in the public virtual meeting room, which is where you are right now, while the court reconvenes in a private virtual meeting room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision will be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to the audience in the public virtual meeting room. So for those who have signed in, if you can just sit tight with us, the county court members and legal counsel are going to exit here with staff shortly, and then we'll be back at the conclusion of the executive session.
Judge, hi, I just want to, this is Carrie Connolly. I'm one of the attorneys that represents your county, and I'm not, do I have the additional sign in?
So Lisa, our chief of staff, is going to put you in the room.
Great.
So you actually don't have to sign into anything.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
So those who are designated to go into the executive session, I'm going to open the executive session room. You should see something pop up on your screen that allows you to click and enter if you don't automatically get ported into the room. And if I don't see you there, I'll come back and find you.
I came back and just checking to make sure. I see Commissioner Wilkins is in, Commissioner Weatherall, legal counsel is in. Let me just make sure. It looks like Teresa is back with us, and then there is Lisa. So, so the executive session is closed, and we'll move back into our regular meeting session, and we're in 5.1, which is the possible action item from the executive session. Is there a motion? Oh. Carrie, you're muted.
Be done, mute, Carrie.
There we go. So a suggested motion for the commissioners to make would be, I make a motion to accept Waldron and Sons November 20th, 2020 change order request for $18,369.86 and direct the appropriate staff to sign all associated documentation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I don't know if I can repeat that back, but that we accept the change order from Waldron and Sons in the amount of $18,361.86, and to authorize appropriate personnel to complete all documents. Am I close on what we had?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, good job.
Great. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay.
Aurora?
Thank you all so much. I'm signing out. I think my part is done. And I am available if there are any follow-up questions later.
Thank you, Carrie.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Carrie.
And great job organizing this meeting, Lisa. Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Judge
Carrie.
Ferrara, may I ask a quick question?
Sure.
This is Les Ruark. Can you please identify the attorneys representing the county and the other party involved so that one is able to know who is who?
So and Carrie just signed off, but the legal counsel was Carrie Connolly, and she is part of local government law group in Eugene.
And who was the other party attorney?
There wasn't another party attorney.
Yes, Mr. Heron was on, wasn't he?
That's the contractor
Well, that's the contractor, sorry.
for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move into unfinished business, 6.1, which is the second reading and adoption of Ordinance 2020-03 in the matter of an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Comprehensive Plan to add aggregate resource site number 1001 Weedman as significant aggregate site to the Gilliam County Comprehensive Plan mineral and aggregate inventory. That is a mouthful. So just to recap real briefly, during our last during our last regular meeting on November 18th, we held a public hearing on this matter. And then because it's an ordinance, it requires to be read twice, at least 13 days apart. And so the first reading took place during that November 18th meeting. If the county court wishes to proceed with adopting the ordinance, we would first need to do the second reading and then accept the second reading and adopt the ordinance. Are there any questions or things anybody wants to raise? I see Michelle's on if anybody has questions about it.
I think all our questions were answered on the first reading, so I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I move to have the second reading of ordinance number 2020-03 by title only.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we have the second reading of ordinance number 2020-03 by title only. Is there further discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. So I'll read this. In the county court for the state of Oregon for Gilliam County, ordinance number 2020-03 in the matter of an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Comprehensive Plan to add aggregate resource site number 1002-Weedman as a significant aggregate site to the Gilliam County Comprehensive Plan mineral and aggregate inventory.
I move to accept the second reading by title only and to adopt ordinance number 2020-03.
Oh, sorry. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the second reading by title only and to adopt ordinance number 2020-03. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, next one up is 6.2, which is consider approval of memorandum of agreement with Condon Chamber of Commerce for COVID-19 Small Business Grant Program Administration. So to recap this one, back on November 17th, we received word from the state that the state would be committing $55 million in financial assistance to support Oregon businesses that are impacted by COVID-19. And at the time, they told us they would be allocating amounts directly to the counties to distribute to businesses. And after that time, after we met, I've we since learned that the county is set to receive $516,773 for disbursement to our local businesses, which is absolutely fantastic. And then if you guys recall, during our November 18th meeting, we discussed this and reached a consensus that we were interested in partnering with the Condon Chamber of Commerce to disperse those funds if the state guidance allowed for it. And so at the time when I wrote the briefing, you'll see we didn't have good state guidance at that point. We've since gotten it. Basically, it does appear that the state will allow us to contract with an outside entity to provide the administration for the program. So we are able to contract with the Condon Chamber if we want to proceed with that. I went ahead and drafted a memorandum of agreement that was based on the document that we signed with Norcor, if you remember a couple of weeks ago when we did that one. Similar concepts. The idea is that basically the chamber is subject to the same requirements under the state contract that we have for receiving that money. The chamber would be responsible for ensuring compliance with that. And so I apologize that that came to you guys very late last night. As we made reference to, I was in the doctor's office all afternoon yesterday, hooked up to a baby monitor. So, so that came out a little late, but anyway, that's kind of the gist of it. I think the idea would be that the chamber would establish guidelines as well as a review committee that would include individuals from both ends of the county to participate, to review those applications. You'll see in the email from Leah Horner that's in your packet some of the other information about who's eligible, who's not eligible. All of those are written into the state contract that we have. So obviously, again, the chamber would need to make sure that any applicants that they approve meet those requirements and that they're getting the documentation in order so that if the state wants to look at those records and make sure that we're in compliance, that we have those available. One thing that has come up that I needed to raise is when I originally talked with the chamber, our original grant program that we did back in the springtime was, I think we allocated $150,000 and 10% we allowed for administration costs. There was a question about how much the state would allow for administration costs out of this $516,000. I heard back from the governor's office last night that it's a 5% cap. The chamber is still interested in having the 10%. And so if we moved forward with the MOA as it's written, which it has the 10% in, but that obviously is something the court would need to agree to, then we would need to find that other 5% elsewhere. It couldn't come out of this $516,000. So I just wanted to flag that as well as one issue that we need to discuss and figure out what we want to do if we decide to move forward. Questions, thoughts, comments?
How many people are on the review committee?
Jerilyn, do you have a...
Yes, good morning. Yes, good morning, Judge and Commissioners. We have a team of 5 on the review committee, also including a county employee that can be our liaison, making sure that we are taking into account all considerations, and that way we have boots on the ground to be a good communication resource to the judge and her staff as well.
And then you've got folks lined up already, Kaylin, don't you?
That is correct. I'm happy to take names into consideration. Obviously, in the essence of time, we want to keep the group that's a manageable number, keeping an odd number as well to break any ties in voting, but feel that I have built a very considerate team representing both the north and south ends of the county, as well as a neutral party with the Small Business Development Center.
And we found, commissioners, during the spring grants that having the Small Business Development Center at the table was really beneficial, because Greg just is a wealth of information about other resources out there for small businesses. And so that was a way for us to really help the business community connect, not just with the county funds that were coming out, but with other state and federal resources that are available in the region. So I thought that was very beneficial. So I'm glad to hear that he would be part of this effort as well.
Absolutely. Greg is excited to be part of the process. In the meantime, since March, the Small Business Development Center has helped over 40 businesses in Gilliam County with getting their books in order, a continued education on a number of different things, from marketing, promoting your business, business resiliency, and is a key player now on the Chamber Board of Directors.
As far as the application process goes, is there a template for an application to apply for these funds, or is that something that the Chamber Committee will be drafting themselves?
That's an excellent question, Commissioner Wilkins. We have put together a draft application as well as the guidelines. Everything will be reviewed and edited by the county to make sure that we're in compliance. And all along, 100% of the correspondence the county will be kept in contact as well. We have reporting measures set in place too.
Okay, there was, I had someone express some concern with a previous application, which showed that the businesses were required to be a member of the Condon Chamber of Commerce. And I just wondered why that was being asked.
Well, that isn't a requirement in this upcoming grant funding, but my question back would be, why wouldn't they want to be a chamber member?
Well, yeah, certainly, but yeah. I didn't see it as being a requirement.
Yeah,
necessary.
It's not in this next grant cycle. And, you know, things like that are always up for discussion and something that we could take off. But there's just so much value in being a chamber member that the information resource, the connectivity to advancing education, the networking, and then as well as the business advocacy, it's a small investment into their business.
No, I don't dispute that in any way.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Judge, I have a question. The last time that we contracted with the chamber to distribute the $150,000 that came, I was questioned by members of the community as to why we went with the chamber instead of having the county administer this program. And I was just wondering if you could remind us and the public, I guess, what's the benefits of, you know, utilizing the chamber for this program?
Yeah, so there were a couple things at the time, and some of them may be applicable now and some of them may not. One was, at the time, if you recall, we were reacting sort of in real time to the first wave of closures. And so I think we were prioritizing getting those funds out expeditiously rather than, you know, if we as the county court had to make every funding decision, then having to go through the public meeting, scheduling, noticing, all of those kinds of things likely would have held up that relief for our small businesses. So that was one of the main driving factors. I think the other thing, just from a general perspective, was that with the Chamber's connections to the business community that was already pre-existing, it kind of made some sense to have them be kind of that main point of contact, understanding that this was not going to be the only resource available. And so by having sort of that touch point in the community that could connect not just to the county funds, but also to federal and state resources, you know, other things outside of just what the county was focused on. It seemed like that was going to be in terms of resources that we could allocate toward it, a better way to do that, since folks were already reaching out to the Chamber about their closing and, you know, all of the things they had to do in response to the governor's shutdown, that they were already making contact with the Chamber anyway. And so allowing them to go to one stop rather than have to go to us for certain things and then go to the Chamber for other things seemed to make some sense. At the time too, we also thought that in terms of people's financial documents, that those might have some more privacy under the Chamber. I'm not sure under this agreement if that would be the same, because there's some public records requirements under the state contract we have, and so the Chamber would be subject to those as well. But under the county's original agreement, I don't know if that would have been the same case. So originally that was one of the considerations. I'm not sure that that's relevant in this particular consideration, because I think they would still be subject to the same state public records requirements that the county would be. And then part of it as well was also allowing an opportunity, I think, for the community. Under the first grant, you know, KLN sort of assembled, the cities were involved, Columbia Basin was involved, basically the people who might be able, anybody who might be able to bring something to the table to provide relief. And so it seemed to make sense that you would have a community effort to kind of partner and see what everybody could bring to the table. And it kind of made sense to not have the county be sort of the sole decider and to try to make that more of a community effort. So those were some of the considerations. And like I said, some of them are probably still relevant, you know, in terms of making funding decisions. I think the Chamber is definitely more nimble than, say, the public bodies would be. Like, for instance, the port would be in the same boat we would be in terms of needing to schedule public meetings to make funding decisions. But some of the others, like the public record stuff, are probably not less relevant in this discussion.
Thank you.
So Kaylin, do you have an estimate of how many businesses within our county will be taking advantage of?
Yeah, well, right away, we have to identify the businesses that were most impacted. So those are the businesses in our hospitality industry. So our restaurants, bars, hotels, motels, lodging, all of the above. I have a list here. Just give me one moment to pull it up. I've identified about 15 businesses in the first tier that fall into those that have been directly impacted, required to shut down. And then the second tier are businesses that have been impacted, but not at the highest level. So we've got our outfitters, our guides. We also have the businesses, you know, that personal services, our catering businesses as well. When you look at the sum of funds that Gilliam County is being rewarded, these funds are going to make a significant impact into keeping our businesses open, which is key. Starting up a business from scratch, from ground zero, costs so much more than keeping our businesses viable, alive, healthy, and supported, especially through what we know to be harder months for them in general. So we're really positioned right now to make a huge impact to all of the Gilliam County businesses. But obviously our first priority is to really help those that have been required to shut down and not operate at all.
Right.
Yeah, so in the state, I was going to say, Sherry, in the state contracts too, and the state guidance that we've been receiving is they really want us to focus the funds first on those entities that were specifically named in those closure executive orders first. I think that's a recognition by the governor's office that had really an extreme economic impact on those restaurants and other related businesses. So,
right. And so the cost incurred by the chamber to administer this grant process, do you have some kind of estimate of what your expenses are? And
yeah, that's a great question. Actually, at this time, it will just be operations for myself. And so I have asked to be being given the opportunity to work full time until the grant's administered, as well as the reporting is finalized. So there'll be a little bit extra to our operations budget, which is something that we struggle with each year, is making sure that we have the funding just to cover the staffing. So 100% of the administrative fee for the COVID relief grant will go towards chamber operations. And then obviously we'll use that into the next year. I have had to purchase a few programs to help with, the tracking of the grants, but that's just Adobe DC. I would say costs of programs and software is around $1,500, but.
Kaylin, can you remind me what the total chamber budget is for this year?
$100,000.
Thank you.
Okay, so $51,000 plus is half your budget.
Yes.
Saving for this.
Yes, and where we would
agree to the extra 5%.
Where we would normally be coming to Gilliam County for an operations grant. I don't anticipate needing to do that this year. This past year, we received just shy of $40,000 to help with our operations.
Okay.
And I made reference to this, but I wanted to just sort of fill out when I talked about if we decided to go with the 10%, needing to find that other 5%. We still have some CARES Act that is separate from this, where if we have COVID-related expenses, those can be reimbursed from the state. There still is some money left over in that allocation, and it needs to be spent by December 30th.
Right.
So that is one place potentially, if you guys wanted to go with the 10% that money could come from, it would mean that the county is not out any additional funds. Those would just be reimbursed by the state. And I don't know, and maybe Lisa knows or can educate us on if there's anything else that's sort of in the queue that we were planning on expending out of those funds and how much is left in those funds.
So for 2020, no, we don't have anything else listed at this point that needs to come out of the funds. And we have about 35,000 just shy of left in that particular CARES Act allocation.
So what happens to, if we agreed to the 10%, there'd be almost $26,000 out of that account. Then what would happen to anything that was left over on December 31st? It just goes back to the state?
And so the CARES,
so we don't actually have the money. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say that CARES Act grant is on a reimbursable basis.
Okay.
So if we don't expend the money, we just don't. It goes back to the state. Yeah, the state keeps it.
Okay.
I should note though, the small business stuff is an upfront payment. That's not reimbursable, which is great. So they will send us the whole sum. We don't have to go back and forth and keep filing requests for reimbursement like we've had to do with the other county allocation that we received. So that'll be nice. But yeah, if we do not come up with a way to spend that $35,000 between now and the end of December, we'll just lose the right to seek reimbursement for it after the new year.
When we do get that allocation, then our treasurer will be managing those funds.
Yes. So for instance, the original 150,000 that we allocated, we got that reimbursed through the state. Mm-hmm. That money originally came out of the business loan line, that fund. And so I think when that check came in, just put it right back into that account. And so depending on what it is, some of the other expenditures we've been making out of the SIP discretionary line item, and I think that money is rolling back into the SIP funds, but I'd have to check with Nathan and Kelly to see exactly where those funds are going. But yes, those checks come into Nathan and Kelly, and then we try to figure out where to put them based on where the funds came out.
I don't remember. I've read several thousands pieces of paper. Now I can't remember. What is our deadline for dispersing these funds? Is it March 31st?
Yeah, so that's what it appears to be, that they're allowing us to disperse it until the 31st. However, the need itself from the business perspective has to be through December. So the federal requirement is that it's a December 31st sort of cutoff deadline, but they're giving us some extra time to actually get the funds out, the state is. But it needs to cover losses that took place in 2020.
Yeah. So what happens to those funds if they don't all get dispersed?
Good question. There is nothing in the state contract right now that talks about that. I think probably because they are not anticipating, at least with 99% of the counties, that that's going to be an issue. And so I think we'll have to kind of play it by ear based on what the chamber receives. I mean, I've flagged it for the governor's office as like, hey, because I think Sherman County and Wheeler County, who each received $500,000 as well. It's going to depend on how big those requests are and how much people have actually lost once we can quantify that. But they may need to come up with a solution for the smaller counties. And what I think I'm going to propose to them, if we can get our congressional delegation on board, is to give us an extension, because we know that we're still going to have, reduced economic activity, I think, probably well into 2021. So it would be great if we could hold on to those funds and help backfill additional losses that our businesses have, say in the first 6 months of 2021. But we'll see. I think that's still up in the air, but definitely something we need to be advocating that we can keep if we don't, if the demand isn't there initially. I think it will be eventually, so.
Yes, yeah, definitely. This isn't going to end on December 31st.
Nope. Other questions or any thoughts on that, the 5% versus 10%? Are you guys comfortable with the 10, or what did you want to, how are you guys feeling about that piece? I think the rest is pretty straightforward in the memorandum of agreement, but that was the one piece I thought I needed some feedback from the court on.
So out of the $35,000 that's still available of the CARES funding, we don't anticipate anybody else that
we don't need any PPE or anything like that?
So a lot of the PPE is actually allocated through Chris Fitz's emergency management stuff. So it's coming in through separate funding and separate streams. Everything so we've kind of, Lisa and I've gone through all of the different county departments to try to figure out additional expenditures. So for instance, the senior meal side obviously is feeding a lot more people now. Teddy's Veggie RX program, there's a lot more demand on that. And so, but the amount that Lisa gave you that's left, we already sought reimbursement for all of those other things. So we really don't have anything sitting out there that would necessarily, I mean, most of our, there may be some, for instance, if we come to the end and we've still got 10,000, it's probably worth going back to North Central Public Health and seeing if they can use some of that. So far, they have told us that they feel like they're in good financial shape. And I think they've been receiving some assistance probably as well. I mean, there's so many funding streams coming in that they may have some other places where they've been backfilling their budgets. So I think the short answer is I don't see anything on the horizon that would eat up that whole $35,000.
Well, thank you, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be my suggestion too, is that if there is any left over, if the court decides to go ahead and try to bump the administrative fee to 10% on this agreement, that maybe we contact North Central Public Health and just say, we have this much left.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to leave any money on the table if we can bring it into the county. So.
Right. Okay.
Especially since it's federal money.
Okay.
Other questions. So based on that, what are you guys thinking in terms of the 5% versus 10%?
I'm in favor of the county putting in the additional 5% since the funds are there and available.
Yeah, I didn't. Now that I know that there is an additional 5% that's already not earmarked for something else and is coming from the CARES funding, then yeah, it seems like it would be okay to move forward with that.
Okay. Do we? Was there anything else in the memorandum of agreement, the draft that I sent you, that you wanted to discuss or had questions about? I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of the requirements. I mean, basically, we're just saying you need to meet the state requirements that we have to meet and work with us closely to make sure that we are in compliance with those.
Yeah. Do I don't remember what it actually says about the administrative. There it is, administrative fees. Okay, it does list that the 10%. Okay, that was my question. Answered.
Yeah, and the draft that I sent you guys last night just references that a portion will come out of this 516. And that's because it was drafted before we had I heard back from the governor's office pretty late last night about what the answer was. So that I gave us some wiggle room in that in case they came back and said all 10% could come out of the 516. But they informed us it was 5%.
Okay.
And which is good because the more that stays in, it goes to the businesses. So
exactly.
Okay. I'm good.
So do we have a motion on the memorandum of agreement?
I move to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Condon Chamber of Commerce for COVID-19 Small Business Grant Program Administration as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the memorandum of agreement with the Condon Chamber of Commerce for COVID-19 Small Business Grant Program Administration as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so next steps on this is I will go ahead and work with the chamber and the grant review committee that they set up to just go through their guidelines and make sure that those are in compliance with our state contract. So if you guys are okay with just delegating that authority to me to help them make sure that we're all on the same page. And then I'll need to check with Nathan and Kelly. I'm not sure if the funds have come in yet, but I think they're available shortly. And so we'll work with Ellen and with Nathan on getting the funds into Gilliam County's account and then over to the chamber. And once we have the signed MOA in hand.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Kaylin.
Thanks, Kaylin.
Thanks for all your work.
Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So next up is 6.3, which is discuss Port of Arlington Joint Meeting Moderator Selection. This is part of the ongoing back and forth regarding the Willow Creek IGA and getting that resolved, hopefully through a joint meeting between the two parties. Just to recap, back in early October or late September, we had received a request or a suggestion from the port of some moderator candidates. And I sent the port back a letter after our court discussion on October 7th, basically to Ron Wilson, who's the president of the Port of Arlington Board, just expressing that we had suggested Six Rivers Dispute Resolution Center as sort of a neutral party. And then we received a letter back on November 25th from Peter Mitchell, who I think I saw him on earlier, if he's not still on, offering an alternate moderator option, which is former Judge Stephen Grasty from Harney County. And then the letter also said that the port was willing to cover half the cost of Judge Grasty's time and travel, which was about $250 plus mileage, I think. So the question I have for you guys today is whether you want to accept that proposed moderator or offer an alternate option. One thing I just noticed in here, and I don't know, I wish Peter was still on here. I see the port's on here, but I thought Peter was on here earlier too. In it, they kind of talk about this really just needing somebody to chair the meeting. And I'm just going to throw this out here, but I actually don't have any problem if the port wants to chair the meeting. So, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, if you would prefer to have a neutral party running it. It's obviously two public meetings that are going to, so I'll still have to open the meeting for us and Ron will still have to open the meeting for the port, but I'm just curious what you guys thought, if you liked the idea of having a separate person, or if you want to just go back to the port and say, if Ron wants to run the meeting, there's no pride of ownership here. I'm comfortable with having him run it if the port would feel more.
Well, I guess I might be a little bit confused, but I didn't know, were we looking for a mediator or we're looking for a moderator? I mean, do we just want someone that can run the meeting? Because probably any of us could do that. Or is it, do we want someone that is helping us with a little mediation?
So originally in the back and forth, I had thought that the port was looking for a mediator more. And so that's part of the reason why we suggested the Dispute Resolution Center. But in Peter's, and I wish he was here, I see.
Well, it is, that's what his email says is, while the board appreciates Six Rivers' potential abilities as a mediator, it seems that a moderator is really what is needed. But yeah, why do we need a moderator? I'm not sure.
If all we needed was a moderator, we could have done this meeting
6 months ago.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was just a, given that there's two governing bodies and who would be in charge kind of thing, but like I said, I have no kind of ownership, and so if the port would feel more comfortable running the meeting, if Ron would like to preside over it, I don't have any objections to that.
Yeah, I don't either.
So I don't know. Leslie, are you okay with that?
Well, yeah, I don't care. I don't have any preference to who runs the meeting. I guess my question is just, do we want someone there that's going to facilitate the discussion and have any ideas or try to help us come to some kind of a conclusion together? Or do we just want someone that's just going to take us through the process of having a meeting?
Because we know how to have a meeting.
And this might be something as well, given the timing of this, that I see that Commissioner-elect Shannon's on as well. I don't know, Pat, if you have thoughts on this. My guess is that this meeting probably wouldn't take place until 2021 anyway. And so at
this point,
yeah, who knows? So I'm not sure if you have a preference either that you wanted to weigh in with.
I actually think that probably reaching out to the port at this point and finding out if they're comfortable with Ron presiding over the meeting would be a good way to move forward. Maybe easier than trying to complicate it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that was my concern, was adding one more person's schedule to the mix might slow down the process of actually getting it scheduled. So
I would expect that this will go into 2021, and but it should get through it early in 2021. And if they want to move forward fairly early with Ron presiding over the meeting, I think that'd be fine.
Okay. Sherry, Leslie, does that sound, would you guys like me to just go back and have a conversation with Peter and see if that would resolve their concern?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I will reach out. Kelly might have been listening because I see the port's on, but she's not unmuting. So I don't know if they're busy with something else. So if Kelly doesn't hear me, I will, I'll reach back out and talk to Peter and see if that would resolve their concern. Okay, anything further on that particular point?
No.
Okay, let's go into new business then at 7.1, which is Gilliam County Soil and Water Conservation District Annual Report. And I see we have Nori on. Thank you for being patient with us.
Hi, Nori. Oh. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes. It looks like you're actually, yes.
Okay. And actually, for a little bit of clarity on this, this is actually an annual report of the Gilliam East John Day Watershed Council. It's kind of interesting how all these pieces fit together. But just a quick rundown, the Gilliam County Soil and Water Conservation District is the fiscal sponsor of the Gilliam East John Day Watershed Council. And so we have a partnership there. Christina Moore is our Gilliam East John Day Watershed Council Coordinator. The council's main source of funding comes from OWEB. And so every 2 years that we apply for that council capacity grant, which we've been very fortunate the council has received. But one of the requirements of this grant is to present an annual report of council activities to the local government entity that recognized the council at its formation, which so happens to be the Gilliam County Court with resolution 97-12 in June of 1997. And so basically today, Christina Moore, who was hired in February of 2020 for the Gilliam East John Day Watershed Council, she's hit the ground running and done amazing. And she's just going to kind of give you a rundown of some of the activities and things that have taken place this year with the council.
Thanks, Nori. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Christina Moore. I'm the Gilliam East John Day Watershed Council Coordinator. I took over the vacated position in February of this year, and kind of, even with COVID, we kind of hit the ground running. It's been a busy year. It has not really held us back from much, which has been great. So I'm currently part of the Lower John Day Working Group, Place-Based Integrated Water Resource Planning. We work to understand the water conditions of the Lower John Day Basin, identify water issues and concerns, and then to develop solutions to meet current and future water needs in our area. I'm currently co-outreach committee lead alongside the SWCD. Over the past year, we've planned and conducted 5 outreach events and meetings with the Lower John Day Basin, as well as created materials for the press and public in order to educate and engage those within the Lower John Day Basin of our current efforts. The council is actively working with the Lower John Day Place-Based Planning Group to finalize step 4 using a 5-step collaborative process to outline and complete the place-based integrated water resource planning for the Lower John Day Basin. The council will develop and review, comment, edit, and complete tasks provided monthly by the Lower John Day Place-Based Planning Group. We are very close to finalizing that step 4 and should hopefully be delivering that to be viewed by the public soon, hopefully within the next 2-3 months maybe. So that's exciting. We're only one step away from finalizing that, and it's been, as far as I know, a few years that we've been working on this, so that's been great. I'm also currently part of the John Day Basin Partnership. That partnership is unifying purpose is to bring together stakeholders from across the basin with common interest of restoring and maintaining our watersheds to maximize their ecology, economic, social, and cultural benefits. We apply deep knowledge of the basin, best available science, and cooperative planning and fundraising to empower more actions that establish healthy and resilient native habitats, working landscapes, and local communities for future generations. Again, with that group as well, I am part of the outreach committee and doing the same thing, delivering press and to the public to engage those within the John Day Basin. Also, the Lower John Day RCPP stakeholder engagement that was completed this year. The council continues to engage in landowners within the Hay Creek, Scott Canyon, Ferry Canyon, and 30 Mile Creek watersheds for potential regional conservation partnership program funding. RCPP is a cost share program through the Natural Resource Conservation Service for installing conservation practices on private lands. The stakeholder engagement grant seeks to identify the resource concerns of landowners and managers within the 3 watersheds. I'm not sure if any of you guys have currently read the paper. I believe it was back in the beginning of June when it came out, but that RCPP was fully funded in May of 2020 for $3.9 million. The council will be working alongside the SWCD in creating those work group projects in our area. It's really exciting. I do believe we were notified that we did get #1 in the state for the RCPP, so that was really rewarding and exciting to know. The Watershed Council is also in charge of the small grant program. It's an easy to engage in competitive grant program that awards up to, but not to exceed more than $15,000 for on-the-ground restoration projects. This program responds to a need for local decision-making about watershed restoration opportunities on a shorter time frame than is available under OWEB's regular grant program. Some of these small grants are solar wells that are put in, spring developments that are put in for livestock and wildlife, as well as fencing and just small things that help out our current landowners within our watersheds. The program enables landowners to improve their properties for the benefit of water quality, water quantity, and fish and wildlife, for planting native plants along stream sides to reduce sedimentation, erosion from upland farms and ranches. So that's been really busy. We have at least 5 small grants within the community that we are currently working on and getting those sent into OWEB. OWEB small grant project was probably the only thing that was majorly affected by COVID this year, just because we had to put on hold. We didn't know if the funding was going to be there, but we do have that, which is really great. And so we're going to be moving full force to get those approved for our local landowners. I'm also currently working on the Gilliam County Special Grant that was awarded to the Gilliam East John Day Watershed Council. I applied for that back earlier this year for the Gilliam Conservation Education Program. I appreciate and look forward to working on this grant and it being awarded. The Gilliam Conservation Education Program is a hands-on learning program for our local Gilliam County students. The program will provide generations of Gilliam County students the opportunity to learn beyond the classroom. Our goal is to not only educate the students on natural resources, but to also show them the numerous job opportunities that are available to them within our county. One of my inspirations for this grant, and the reason I applied for it, is within the first week of working in the office, a coworker had told me that growing up, she didn't even know that conservation, there was a job within the county for conservation. And so I also, living in a larger town away from Condon, I had the same thought. I didn't even know conservation was a degree or an employment opportunity. So I think getting our local students and children hands-on with natural resources and just working outside the classroom and opening their eyes to everything else that they can see I think it's a great opportunity for them, and I think this is a program that's going to continue for years and years to come. And I really look forward to working with it. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Christina?
I don't have any questions. All very interesting.
Yeah, I don't either, but we appreciate you coming and giving us an update.
Right. It's all very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, we've definitely been very busy.
Yeah, and I will say I really appreciate these entities' efforts, and they're very aggressive about going after outside funds and bringing it back into our communities. And I just, every time we talk to Herb and his team and Christina and Nori, like they're constantly working on the next thing. And so I think that's important for the public to hear on the record that, you know, we have organizations, entities that are working really hard to try to bring in outside funding to invest and make the community better. So I just wanted to say kudos on that, because I know that those grants are rough to go through, and the fact that you guys came in like #1 is really a testament to the work that you're doing. So good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right, guys. If there's no questions, well, we can move into staff reports. And I think we'll start. Let me see. I see Teddy's on there. It looks like you're up first, Teddy, with Family Services.
So just give me a moment, Judge. I'm just going to do a screen share of a presentation for staff that they're going to be using. So give me 1 second.
Great. And Teddy, you're muted, by the way.
This works. I can't see it. I'll move it out the way and it won't let me. There we go. Okay,
there
are
it
you
goes.
all able to see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you, Judge, Commissioners, Commissioner-elect, for giving us this opportunity to come share with you again what staff have been working on for the last 6 months. So this is wrapping up our twice yearly presentation from staff for 2020. And in your packs, you should have item briefings for the 3 departments that we'll be presenting today. So as Judge mentioned, we have Teddy Fennon, Family Services Coordinator, followed by Sabrina Wagner of Senior Services, and then taking up the final presentation will be Michelle Colby, our Planning Director. So moving straight in, Teddy, if you're ready and unmuted.
Hopefully everybody can hear me.
Yes, you sound great.
All right, so again, my name is Teddy Fenner, Gilliam County Family Services Coordinator, and I'll just give you a couple of updates here and try and keep it fairly short, but I work with the local community advisory council on our Frontier Veggie RX program. And the Frontier Veggie RX program is around food security program initiative to help people get some vouchers for $30 per person or up to 2 per family that they can get per household if you are determined to be food insecure. And this program only continues to grow in conversations with some in conversations with Lisa and the judge of trying to figure out what are we going to do and how are we going to try and find some additional funding. They were instrumental in helping us apply for some funding through the CARES Act, as was already spoken of earlier by the judge. And that is going to help this program for this year exponentially. We were looking at a pretty big shortfall, and this is going to get us through the end of this grant year for this program. So that is great, and I'm very appreciative of those guys to help me figure that out. So okay,
happy to help.
So I'm gonna move forward into the next slide.
And I will say, Teddy, before
Yes.
you go there, and one of the benefits of the VeggieRx program, I think, for all of the community that's worth noting, in addition to those families that obviously are getting access to fruits and vegetables, is the feedback that we've gotten from our local stores is that that is allowing them to stock a greater variety for the rest of us as well. And so that's really helping them be able to provide kind of that variety and things. And so I think in addition to the families who are getting that direct food benefit, there's a benefit for all of us in that we have better selection and and stocks available in our local grocery stores because of this demand that we're creating for fruits and vegetables. So I just wanted to put that out there for those who are listening, that, you know, it's a wider community benefit than maybe you see at first glance. Go ahead, Teddy.
Yes, thank you. I guess sometimes I just kind of realize that myself and a point out to everybody as well. So the next thing, the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub is our early learning, basically the people who are the experts in early learning for our county as well as for other counties. And so currently, between the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub and Gobi, they're partnering together, working on a parenting education project called Triple P Parenting. And this can allow for some online parent education classes as well as in person. The in-person piece has really been put on the back burner as with so many things that are during COVID right now. But I believe that there has been a few people who are trying the online courses and feeling that that is a really good way to work with families. And one of the other things that I've spoke with very recently is the director of the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub, Krista Rude. She was in some communication with Google, trying to see about getting some matching funding to some of the other funding that they have, and that if they were successful in getting this, that they would be getting some Chromebooks for our families. So it would be just another incentive. So the point of that would be is if I wanted to take this parenting class, then they would give me a Chromebook, which would allow for me to actually take it online and then keep the Chromebook at the end of the class. So kind of a win-win for everybody. I had not heard if that was 100% successful at this date, but it was in a really good place of the conversation at the time that I talked with Krista last. the steering committee is with a partnership of many of our local community partners, as well as the Hub and Gobi. And I know that Amy Nation is on that steering committee. They're all in the beginning frameworks of all this collaborative work to make sure that this is out there and available to families. So does anybody else have any questions on any of that stuff right now?
Doesn't look like it.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So the Local Community Advisory Council is what I'm going to talk about next. I just kind of mentioned that collaboration with the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub. So I guess I just told you about that. So I probably should have not put that in there twice, but so we have on some of our other things as the Community Advisory Council is kind of a goal to continual improvement or relationships with our local healthcare providers. And we have a virtual dental project. And if you haven't heard about it, it is up and running in Arlington with Advantage Dental. And they are able to have Ashley Danielson, which is an expanded practice dental hygienist, I think is exact how you put that, but she's able to go in and meet with people that are on the Oregon Health Plan currently, and she can do some of her things like the teeth cleaning, and then take your x-rays and do a comprehensive look at the teeth. And then she's able to digitally send that to a dentist. So then in real time, the dentist will look at it, bring back his findings, as well as what her findings were. They can talk about it and determine what would be the next step for that patient. And then there are some minimal things that Ashley can do as restorative work to work with that patient then on, or if she can't do the next step, they help the patients then make their appointment and get into the dentist to be seen, to get in and be seen by the actual dentist so they can get their next steps finished. And so for all intents and purposes, this is considered a comprehensive exam. So if you don't have any findings and no cavities and nothing further to do, you're done. You're good to go for your next 6 months. So that is working well. Of course, outside of COVID things, they were shut down for a small amount of time, but they are actually able to see patients still. So if anybody needs that, they can call down at the Arlington Health Center and get that put through there to find out her information to call and make the appointment. Dr. Mike up here at the South End he has been approved to accept Oregon Health Plan. So he can see Oregon Health Plan clients in Condon now. Him and Ashley and the clinic and stuff are having conversations to see if there's anything that they can do collaboratively together, or if it would continue to remain the way that it is. If Dr. Mike is seeing people here and Ashley's doing that plan in Arlington, maybe it'll stay that way, or maybe things can become a collaborative effort. And so that is just kind of remains to be seen at this point, but we'll figure that out as they go. As far as other things that I would like to look at and work on that I haven't been really is kind of some homelessness work, and to do a little bit of investigation. Through CAPCO, they do a thing that's called a point in time count. And the point in time count is they take just a 1 day, what they consider point in time, and do a count around what they are considering homelessness, or on the verge of being homelessness, or if you're in unstable sort of situation or housing that is not considered inhabitable. I'm not sure exactly how all of these definitions are actually what the actual definition is of each of them right at this point in time. I'm supposed to be working with CAPCO and other community partners on this. And then again, I'm not sure if I just said it's in January 27th, I believe, that the point in time will take place. The 2020 numbers seemed fairly high to me. There was like 8 in Condon and 60 something in Arlington last year. And so I'm not sure if that included like every trailer in the trailer park, or how they came up with that. I have not gotten that information back yet. I did put in some questions. So again, I'm just kind of going to be investigating some of this stuff and trying to figure out what it is that we can do to help and how they came up with those numbers. And another thought that I had was, if the housing in a lot of these places are considered uninhabitable, what would it look like for us to try and work with something like Habitat for Humanity? Would they come out here? What would it take? How much money would it cost? Or would it cost us money? Anyways, just some things that I'd like to look at. So that's just kind of a on the horizon next year project for me to look into. What else I got going on?
Great. Questions for Teddy?
I had a couple, Teddy.
Yes.
Ashley, how long has she been up and running?
They have been doing things in Arlington for, it's been well over a year.
Mm-hmm. I remember talking about it before. Do you know how many days a week she's working here?
Right now, it's my understanding that it's 1 day a week. And it was started out more than that, but they didn't have the number of clients, maybe not the availability of OHP clients, but not the number of clients that were actually calling them to be seen.
Do you know how they get the word out to the community in Arlington that she's available?
So my understanding was that because they could only see OHP clients currently, that they were sending direct mailers out to those specific clients rather than just doing a community-wide notice saying, hey, I'm here. And then she didn't want to make other people feel bad in case they called and said, I want to come too, but they just couldn't see them yet. The hope is that they will be able to figure it out to where that they can take all insurances and not only OHP.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have other questions, Leslie, or was that it?
That was it for now.
Sherry, any questions for Teddy at this point? You're still muted.
I do not have questions at this point. Thank you, Teddy.
Yes, thank you.
Teddy, do you have more for us, or is that all?
I think that's everything for me right now.
Okay. Yeah, I would just note, you know, for those, the briefing I thought was really interesting to see how many more people are using like the food pantry services and things like that. I think that's a real indication of the impact the pandemic has had. If you compare like the first quarter, particularly in Condon, it looks like has been hit particularly hard, families have. So that makes Teddy's role all the more important to help connect folks with resources. So you're doing a great job, Teddy.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're moving on to senior services and Sabrina.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? And
you look very pastoral.
All right. So we're just going to start, I guess, with the senior well-being during the COVID. It's been kind of difficult because we've got phone calls from people where I think they just want somebody to come visit them or just to be part of them. So we usually have to carry a conversation with them just to be somebody there for them. And then like with the meal sites and everything, I try to update them as far as the COVID numbers weekly, which I've had people tell me they really appreciate that. And then also I've been putting in like word searches, crosswords, bingo, and then we did bingo cards with daubers, and they received their numbers weekly. And then I purchased gift certificates to give people that get bingos. They get a little gift certificate and can go to that establishment, local establishment, and get a treat just kind of to help out our local establishments as well. So the people have been really liking the bingo and the word searches and that kind of stuff. So that has been our activities to try to keep them busy doing something while staying safe. Is there any questions on any of that kind of stuff?
No, I will just say that the courthouse is participating in the bingo too, and I look forward to it every week. So I think it really probably helps our senior population too to have something to look forward to and that connection with people in the community. So Sabrina has been very creative in giving our seniors all of those little, those little above and beyond. I mean, I just want to really commend her and transportation as well, because this has been a very difficult year for them and they have risen to the occasion every time. So, and the little things I think really matter, Sabrina. So you've done a really good job of thinking through some fun things for our seniors so that we keep the community spirits up. So good job.
Thank you. We're trying.
I hear about it from my mother-in-law as well. Every time I go up there, she's talking about the bingo and the.
I know they get kind of defensive if they don't get their bingo stuff. I didn't realize how hostile a situation could be. So it's kind of made me get on track because, like in the beginning, I was trying to do 3 different. So Condon meal site had their bingo numbers, Arlington had their bingo numbers, and then the courthouse had their bingo numbers. Well, it kind of got, so it was a little confusing. So I had to put it on a spreadsheet to keep it straight, but I think I've got it now. So
People are serious about their bingo.
They are very serious about their bingo. And then if they don't get their award right away, then or their certificate, then they're calling wanting to know where it is. So yeah, but like I said, it gives them something to do. So, and it's working well. The next thing is the SHIBA Counselor, which is Senior Health Insurance Benefit Assistance. It's a 3-part training to become a SHIBA Counselor, assist seniors in navigating their Medicare options, and advise seniors of their rights. I'm currently working on trying to get my SHIBA counseling completed. I'm doing the online trainings, which there's like 17 online courses. And then once that's done, then there's like a 10-hour where I have to do an internship with a certified SHIBA counselor. And we also have a SHIBA counselor that's very good. Since I'm not certified to do this, I have been passing out her phone number so that people can get the help they need. And she's willing to also include me in that so that I can kind of, I think, do part of my like job shadowing with her. So it's been really interesting to learn all this and look to have this done by 2021 sometime. Is there any questions on that?
I'm just happy to see you're going to be able to help me with my Medicare options in 2 years when I'm going to need to do that. And I'm putting you down on my calendar.
I can let you be a
I'm going to need the help.
Perfect. So yeah.
She can be your guinea pig.
That's right. So yeah. So is there any other questions?
So in the interim then, if we run into seniors who are having issues, they can still contact you and you'll just put them in touch with the counselor that you're working with. Is that the best thing for us?
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. And like I said, working with her and stuff, because she's very, I mean, I've had, because I've had people call me needing to talk to somebody about their Medicare. So then I just give them her phone number, or I have her contact them. And when reaching out to the people that I have given her number to, they all have positive comeback on that. Because I know Sue Ann she comes usually to our meal sites, which it's kind of funny to watch our people at meal sites because they're just like, there's a stranger in the room, so it's been like, it's okay, you can talk to her, but they just don't know really if they want to talk to this person. So it's been good for them to kind of get a face with the name and that kind of stuff too. So.
Great. Any questions for Sabrina on this piece? Okay, next step, Sabrina.
So Arlington, staff and volunteers continue to serve Arlington. Since the COVID, we've had to go to curbside pickup and deliver meals to those who are not able to come pick them up. So I usually go down every Thursday and deliver meals as well, or every Tuesday, sorry. And then we have our volunteers that go out, which I'm having a little issues with what's this going to look like this winter when it gets bad out. Because there's like volunteers that I would just soon not be out trying to get somebody their meal. So if anybody has a suggestion on how we can, whether I have to go down and do everybody's meals, I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting to see what winter looks like because I don't want to be the reason somebody fell and broke a hip or, whatever. So just trying to mindfully think of how we can get these people served. Our numbers, like on an average for our reports, we used to serve like in Arlington about 30 per week, 30 per week. Since the COVID and all this has gone on, we're up to about 49 per week that we're serving to everybody's homes. So is there any questions on Arlington?
No, I don't have any questions, but please reach out to me. To help with that delivery. We can enlist Brian Wilkins and maybe we can, hopefully neither of us fall and break a hip, but
there you go.
I think we would be interested in helping with that. So please.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. Because that's what I just think that, because I even like one week I went down and delivered for some people and it like rained down there. Well, they had like a black mat out and I stepped on that and it was like, whoa. So then I was like, okay, you guys are gonna have to move that mat, or, you know, because I just thought anybody could have stepped on it. And yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, winter is coming. Hopefully it'll be mild, but we'll go from there and we'll see what happens.
Okay, well, Brian Wilkins is a professional driver, so
there you go.
We'll enlist his services.
Tell him he'll get a meal.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Okay, and then the Condon meal site. Like 2 months ago, the head cook that we had took another job, which now he's left Condon to take another job. So at that point, we were kind of like, what do I do? Do we try to hire again, or do I just go back to cooking? So at this time, I'm currently cooking, which I had to make phone calls to everybody in Condon area saying, okay, because we were delivering everybody's meals up here. And that was me that was delivering them. So I had to then approach them of, okay, if you guys want me to cook, then you guys are going to have to step up and come and pick up your meals outside the church. So they were more than willing to do that. And then once the COVID all comes to an end and we can start meeting again, I have told them that they will have to start like volunteering more to help out so that I can get away from there to get back to the office in a timely manner. And everybody seems to be very willing to do that. So we'll just see what that looks like once everything kind of goes back to normal, if there is a normal. Before COVID, we were serving approximately 50 people a week. Since COVID, now we're doing an average of about 67 per week. And then also the county has said that they would like kind of cover a lot of this, which the county already does. But I have been asking people for donations if they're able to donate. If not, then they don't need to worry about it. So yeah, so we're just trying to keep things moving in a forward motion with that as well. So, and then the curbside thing, that's going to be another issue too up here, is if we have to go back to delivering to everybody or how we really do that. So we'll see how winter works out. Is there any questions on Condon?
I just wanted to put on the record too as well that the meal site is another area where we've been able to use some of that CARES Act money to make up the difference in those increased numbers that Sabrina was talking about. We were able to go get state reimbursement for some of those extra dollars and expenditures the county's incurring to try to keep everybody fed.
Yeah, because like we have like all the to-go containers and that kind of stuff, and that's never, I mean, that's a big expense for those, so.
Right.
Yes.
So do you have any potential replacement for your cook to get you out of the kitchen, or?
We don't currently at this time. What we've found with it is that it seems like it's really hard to get somebody just to come in and work 8 hours a week, because most people need to have like a full-time job. So sometime in the near future, it would be nice to be able to combine and maybe do meal site twice a week instead of once a week, and then combine it to be a combined job with Arlington and Condon, and make it maybe like a more of a full-time position so that we were able to keep employees that would do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
What are you doing on Thursday, Sherry?
Well, this Thursday I have a meeting, and Friday I have a meeting, and so this week I'm a little full. You really trust my cooking?
Until they complain.
I was going to say, in fairness too, I think our seniors really appreciate, Sabrina is an excellent cook. If you have not eaten the senior meal on Thursdays, it's the best meal in town, I think, on Thursdays. And
I'm sure it is.
our seniors have developed quite the taste and are quite particular about who does their cooking these days as well. So that contributes to the difficulty in finding a suitable cook.
Yeah, I would think so.
Anything else, Sabrina? Did you cover everything you wanted to cover? You have more for us.
I think that's, I mean, unless there's other questions on it, like I said, we're kind of still, you know, with this COVID and everything's kind of, you know, a little different this year. I guess my only thing looking forward is some things that I would like to look forward to maybe for 2021. Which I don't know, even at that, of trying to get like the health fair type stuff going. Community garden is something else that I think would be really kind of fun to do with some of our seniors, and maybe include like our school age kids to be involved in that as well.
That would be cool.
And then I guess my biggest thing, like with Gilliam County, is we don't have, I mean, there's like seniors that want to stay in their homes and all they need is like for somebody maybe to go pick up some groceries or come clean their house and do maybe a little home healthcare type stuff, but we don't have that option. So I would really like to look into trying to figure out how we can solve that problem to keep our seniors in Gilliam County in their homes. So if anybody has any suggestions or ideas, I would love to hear them.
That is definitely an issue. I think if we could get a roundtable discussion on that, it would be fabulous to figure out what we could do to. Leslie and I are both quite familiar with that.
Yeah, and it's very, and it's very heartbreaking to get that phone call and people are like, well, can you help me? And it's like, there's really nothing, you know, our hands are tied because we don't have that option here, you know, so
right.
Yeah. Something to add to your list for us to work on next year.
Yes,
right.
Definitely.
Any additional questions or comments for Sabrina? All right. Thanks, Sabrina.
Right. Thank you.
Brian's having to make his own lunch right now, so.
All right.
Forward to that your meal.
He starts delivering on Tuesday, then he can come get a free meal.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sabrina. Okay, moving on. We're up to Michelle Colby with an update from the planning department. Michelle, are you on? There you are. Hello.
Yes. Hello. Good morning, or it's almost afternoon, I suppose, at this point. So we'll start with the slides. In 2021, in January, I'll have, at this moment, 2 brand new commissioners out of 5. There still is 1 vacancy. So come January 1st, we have 4 members. And I haven't done a training in a while. And 2 of these individuals that are just got appointed by the county court are brand new. One has had some experience with planning departments in other counties and other communities. But it's always good to sit down and make sure everyone has the same message. And so I've got materials. I just need to organize them and get it all put together of what that training may look like. And due to COVID, that training will also provide us an opportunity to try to work out some of the kinks with Zoom. Zoom has not been as user-friendly for the Planning Commission or myself this year. It's been very difficult. And so I envision we'll probably have to do that training in January, early February via Zoom. And so hopefully we can work out some of those kinks. And so, and then in addition, I know the county has some other training opportunities beyond just the one-on-one on planning for the Planning Commission volunteers. I believe they'll also be participating in some of the ethics training that Gilliam County employees have already gone through. And then I'll be coordinating with Lisa on what other trainings need to be presented or provided to the planning commissioners as volunteers and as representatives of Gilliam County, so that we can coordinate all that in the first quarter of 2021.
So I think the takeaway here, ladies, is if you hear of somebody out in the community who might be interested in serving on the Planning Commission, we still need one more commissioner. There's still one vacancy. So if you hear of anybody or you think of somebody who might be good to serve, and just have them reach out to Michelle, because we still have one more vacancy that we need to fill on the commission.
Yes, I am thankful we ended up with 3 vacancies come December 31st, and we did fill 2 of those, which relieves the concern for a quorum. So we are good. We will be able to establish a quorum and hold meetings in the first part of 2021. But yes, if there's any interest out there when you're talking to individuals, there's still a vacancy, so they can still volunteer.
Questions for Michelle on the trainings and the Planning Commission? All right.
So the next slide is Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance update. We hit a bit of this in the last staff report. There's always changes and updates that can be made to the land use zoning ordinance. And some days I just wish I could go make the change and do it administratively, but it is adopted by ordinance. And so there's lots of red marks in my book that's sitting on my desk, and there's so much in a compilation of everything. At some point, I'm just going to have to try to piecemeal and get little pieces chipped away and updated on this. As certain projects come up, some of the sections are given more priority over some of the other sections, but it does need a thorough gone through, and there are plenty of notes, and I'm working on it. So it's just something that's in the, on the radar that changes and updates can be made to.
Great questions on this. This is one of those massive projects. It'll be nice once it's done, but it takes a long time to get it where you want it, I think.
There is, and then you find out that there was code language in the book that you've never looked at, and then all of a sudden something comes up and you need to look at it, and you realize, okay, that has room for way too many interpretations. So the language probably needs to be tweaked. And so we try, even though everything is based on Oregon statute, there is room for interpretation, and sometimes that creates some interesting dynamics between the customers, the landowners, and myself. So we try to clear that up as much as we can.
Questions for Michelle on this one? Doesn't look like they have any.
All right. This is an ongoing project that, again, I'm chipping away at, and it's digitizing the Gilliam County zoning layers. And we do have several different layers there. And part of this process that has come to my attention is there's reference made to the zoning layers or the different zoning areas in Gilliam County. And it's not always certain where those boundaries or those lines of those zones are. Again, when the original maps were done in the 70s, it was best guess, and it wasn't necessarily done by tax lot line or any other geographic lines. It was go by this rock or this creek or go here. And so with technology today, it's good that there have been advances, and the county is working through Harney County and their GIS system to help provide some of this assistance. And so we're just chipping away as a project comes up in one of the areas. We do the research, I'm making notes. Again, any of this, if we need to change or clarify any of the boundary lines, we'll have to officially come before the county court for adoption. If we're just clarifying right now, and if during the clarification process there's no concern or room for interpretation, then I'm getting that stuff done and laid out through Harney County. I'm making notes of when it was clarified and how we came to the clarification. If there is room for interpretation, I'm making notes as well, and I've got a file going that will eventually have to come to the county court for final adoption. And so we're just, you know, coming as things come across my desk, and when there's time, you just start chipping away at, okay, technology advances have changed in the last 40 years, and we can better define where these zone parameters and boundaries really do exist, because sometimes they abut against another use that may create a concern or a potential conflict. So we just want to make that as clear as possible. And again, just chipping away at it. I'm glad we do have the resources we do have out there. Again, this is one of those projects that when there's time, you start chipping away. And so there's only one of me, so you can just get done what you can get done. And we just keep making the notes and adding to the file and to the pile. So we'll get there eventually. Elizabeth, we can't hear you.
I've got you on mute. I was going to say I'm excited because I think, you know, all of our departments are really looking at ways to sort of modernize what we're doing. And, you know, it helps improve efficiencies and other things. And so I think this in particular is going to be one of those things that in the long run, the planning director, maybe 10, 15 years from now is, you know, way down the road is going to be really glad that you spent the time doing this and sort of getting these things in order. Because it just gets more complicated the longer we go through. And so the more that we can kind of upgrade ourselves and I think the better we're able to serve the community. So yes. Good job.
Those maps, you know, based on the 70s, they're wonderful. Some of the legends are hard to decipher because at that time, you know, you're using the resources and the technology they had, which was mostly a pen and paper. And so this squiggly line versus that squiggly line, or the slant from the right to the left or the left to the right, sometimes is not well defined when it crosses over. So we're chipping away at defining those boundaries and making it so when, you know, the landowners, the customers call, they can say, I understand my property's zoned differently. Can you tell me where that line is? And so eventually we'll be able to say, without a doubt, here's the line, and we'll have it documented and we'll have a date. So there's no question of if we had to reaffirm it through the county court, here was the reaffirming date. And so we're getting there. And it's nice that technology advances have come as far as they have, and we'll just get there. It's a fun project.
Right. Questions for Michelle on this one?
Judge Ferrara, this is Les Ruark. May I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Les.
Actually, I don't want to ask a question. I want to offer up some praise here for the record of it to both Michelle Colby and to Leah Shannon of late for her good work with the review of the waste management application and renewal permit. But anyway, I just, you know, as you well know, I've followed the planning department for a number of years, and it's been the one interest that's been at the heart of my interest with the county over all that time. And I really have to say I've been impressed with the good faith effort by Michelle to do what she's been able to do and to do it well, and Leah's work too of late, as I said. So I just wanted to make sure that somebody heard that today, I guess. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Great feedback. Other comments or questions for Michelle?
I didn't have any. Thank you for coming and telling us what you've been working on and what's coming up, and you are doing a great job.
Okay, I do have one more slide. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
I cut you off.
Not a problem, not a problem. So this is the last slide. And so during the course of this year, we've had some interesting applications and some situations that arose. In particular, let me just preface, so back in when I started several years ago, being new to planning and going through, you know, the first couple of applications, I was like, how do you get more information out of the clients and the landowners so that you can process and satisfy all the code language? And it was a very, I think it was like 9 pages application. And then I took that 9 pages, which does seem excessive. Well, I made that into almost 15 pages because I just felt like it wasn't doing the landowner any good of me constantly saying, oh, great, glad you submitted the application. However, now I need this and I need this and I need this. So not all those pages. And then that lasted for about a year. And a consultant got a hold of me and said, look, you cannot do this to your landowners. They're lost because it was a situation where a landowner was using a consultant. And needless to say, so we shrunk it down to like 4 pages, the application. Well, I find myself back in that situation again of I'm constantly having to go back to the landowner as I'm building a staff report and building the decision to say, okay, now I need this further information, or I need this documentation. So somewhere between the 4 pages and the 15 pages, we need to find a middle ground, and I need to do that again. There was just too many incidents where, you know, the landowners were getting frustrated with me in this last year. And maybe it was COVID and just the environment that we're in, but there was frustration in, why do you need more information? You need more information. And yes, I do. I go, I can't do the staff report and I can't do this without that information. So just trying to assess and figure out where is that middle ground. 4-page application right now is not working. The 15 seemed really too much. So just really need to overhaul the application process and see where it ends up. But yeah, it was a learning process this year. And like I said, maybe there was outside forces that played into people's cooperation and just the desire to get something accomplished. And so it just, you know, I recognize that that's something that maybe we can change and make it better. And maybe that avenue is reassessing and revisiting the application form itself. So that is on the horizon for 2021. That's what I've got today. Thank you.
Questions for Michelle? Thank you, Michelle. You're doing excellent work, and you've tackled some big things this year as well. Getting that waste management conditional use permit through was a huge effort. So, and it was very smoothly. And for those, planning, who's ever watched us walk through a planning decision, it's complicated, and those staff reports are frequently 30 pages long by necessity, and your work is always so thorough and easy to follow. And and I know that's really hard to do that. So you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, we're putting our best foot forward. And again, with that waste management, that was a huge undertaking. And I can't give enough kudos out to Leah Shannon and some of the other staff that helped get us to where we are today and moving forward. But yes, even though that project was huge, there are similar ones like we just had with the aggregate that staff report was just as lengthy. So sometimes you can have a 5-page staff report, but it's not uncommon to have a 30 or 50-page staff report just to document and analyze all the questions that need to be answered. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michelle.
That
all
concludes
right.
Our staff reports for 2020. So I will go and unshare my screen and hand back over the controls to you, Judge.
Great. And then we'll plan, commissioners, again, to have the next round sort of in 2021. So early 2021, probably first quarter. So we still be working with staff to put those together and keep on going. Probably sort of as a preview to the budget, we'll have the departments coming back to kind of tell us what they're working on and preview anything that we should maybe be aware of going into budget season. So with that, is everybody doing okay, or do we need a break, commissioners? Are you guys okay? What'd you say, Leslie?
5 minutes.
Okay. Why don't we take just a quick break to reset, and let's reconvene, say at 12:15. That works. And so we will be right back very shortly.
Thank you.
And I see Lisa, and it looks like we're recording. Sherry, are you there? Oh, I see her. Okay, so let's come back into session, and we'll go on to item 7.3, which is discuss Summit Springs Village fiscal year 2020-2021 Special Projects Grant Fund. So we received a letter from David Greiner, who I believe is the chairman of the Summit Springs Village Board. As a reminder, Summit Springs received a Special Projects Grant, 2020-2021 grant, to purchase for landscaping, computers, and the purchase of a new generator. So the funds for the landscaping and computers have been expended. However, when they went to get bids for the generator, they discovered the project was going to be a lot more than they had budgeted for. So they had set aside just shy of $15,000, and I think the bid came in a little bit over $25,000. And so they're going to need to raise some additional funds to be able to complete the project. And so they had sent a letter asking for some guidance on what we wanted them to do with the unspent funds. If we wanted those returned back to the county, or if we wanted them to just hold on to it, hold it in reserve for the generator while they're building the rest, or fundraising for the rest of the project. And so I was just looking for some guidance from you guys. If we wanted them to hold on to it, we would just need to modify the grant agreement with them to just give them more time, basically, to expend the funds. And then that way they can go and write other grants or budget for it in their next year, or whatever they need to do to actually be able to complete the project.
Yeah, that was my question. What are their resources to secure that other, like, $15,000? So.
Yeah, I think they would likely be looking at other grants and or seeing if they can find it in their budget. I think they just didn't budget for it in the current year is part of the problem as well. So,
okay. Yeah, I would like to just let them hang on to it until they can get enough funds. However they make that happen.
And we've done that already with, so I think that works for me too.
Yeah, we've had some other folks who had COVID-related delays in construction, and we just extend the deadline for them to expend the money, and it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, I move to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 Special Projects Grant Award to Summit Springs Village, allowing the grant funds to be held until such time the organization is able to raise additional funds to finish the installation of the generator, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 Special Projects Grant Award to Summit Springs Village, allowing the grant funds to be held until such time the organization is able to raise additional funds to finish the installation of the generator, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, moving on to 7.4, discuss the Gronquist building future. I just wanted to flag, I had gotten a call from Tia Devon here a couple weeks ago, just to update me on where they were with the Gronquist building. And obviously with the COVID closures this year, there hasn't been a lot of activity happening up at the Gronquist building for obvious reasons. And Tia shared that I think the organization is sort of at a crossroads in terms of their ability to be able to financially sustain the building. And so I'm not coming with any proposal to the court, other than one of the things I talked about with Tia is, would it be beneficial? I know previously when the group was trying to figure out what to do with the building, you know, they approached the port and the city and a bunch of people separately, and everybody had different reasons for not wanting the building. And so one of the things I talked to Tia about was maybe the idea of just convening a community meeting with those stakeholders, so with the city and the port, and you know, maybe the school district and the health district, and obviously the community can participate and be part of that discussion as well, to see if we can figure out a plan for that building. And I didn't know how you guys felt about that, if you felt like that was the right direction to go, and if you wanted the county to be participating at the table. But I just know that, you know, obviously the county put in a lot of those resources. I think the feedback that I've heard is that people view the Gronquist building as a community asset. And so I think it's worthwhile to have a discussion with all the partners at the table. And but I wanted to see kind of what you guys think about that. And especially since you're both from Arlington, you might have had a different perspective you wanted to throw out there.
Well, I'd like to see us do whatever we can to keep the building going. I think the county should have a seat at the table. We do have a lot invested ourselves, and could have a lot more as the taxes haven't been paid. So
I think it's a good idea to pull everybody in and just have that discussion.
Okay. So probably what I'll do to make sure my maternity leave does not hold that up is I'll work with Lisa and our staff to try to help convene that. And so Lisa will probably, I think that's going to be in a 2021, probably early 2021 meeting. And so Lisa will probably just coordinate with you, Sherry, and with you, Pat, to see what we can do as far as getting those parties to the table, and see if we can put together an initial meeting to talk through some options and see if people have, I mean, maybe some folks have some creative things that they've been thinking about for the building that, you know, this is an opportune time to raise those. So we can move forward with that in early next year.
Okay.
And then moving on to 7.5, which is discuss county road department assistance for new Condon school projects. And I've got, this is sort of a two-part thing. So Michelle here's here with us. And so there's kind of two things in kind of a broader discussion that I sort of want to raise. So first, to kind of get to the meat and the bones of it, is obviously, you know, we're getting a new elementary school here in Condon. Congratulations, Michelle. I understand that the city approved the site plan last night, and so that's moving forward. And so one of the needs for that new facility is fill materials. And so I sent you guys, Michelle forwarded this morning, and I forwarded it to you as well, Dewey's initial estimate of how much it would cost for the fill materials that they need, and then the county personnel to be able to truck that in. And so I think one of the questions for today is just to discuss, is that something we're willing to sort of donate to the project? I see Dewey's on as well. So discussing that and making sure, you know, how we want to proceed with that. There's also an issue that is related, having to do with some of the side roads leading into the new, where the new facility will be. The city had originally requested that some of those that are currently gravel roads be paved. And it doesn't sound like that's going to be within the school's budget. And I don't think the Planning Commission required that last night. But Catherine Greiner from the city did reach out to us and see if maybe that might be another area where the county could partner and help with the paving of some of those roads in that immediate neighborhood, so that, you know, so that we're not knocking the school's budget out of being able to finish their project, but also meeting the city's needs to have sort of some safe routes for parents dropping off their kids and school buses and things like that. So those are kind of the dual things that I wanted to raise. And then there's some overall policy questions I'll get into with you guys, but that sort of tees up, I think, what we're being asked of today. So I don't know, Michelle, if you want to kind of dig in with where you are with the project, and maybe if you could do an overview, kind of your discussion with Dewey and the fill needs, and then I see Dewey's on as well, so he can chime in and supplement.
Yeah, no, that's great. So yeah, we got approved last night for the site plan. And so we are moving forward, making some progress for the new school. I think all of you know the new grade school is going to sit behind the current high school. And there's quite the slope or grade there. And so we always knew we were going to have to bring in fill for this project, and quite a bit. And so a month or so back, one of our board members reached out to Dewey and just kind of visited a little bit about the fill. Dewey and I have been sending messages back and forth talking about how much fill. He's been talking with Flagline Engineering, who is working with steel to determine how much the fill is. So Dewey quickly got us numbers together after he got information on Monday. And so looking through that email right there, I wanted you guys to have the numbers in front of you today, and Dewey thought that would be important as well. And so what we're asking for is 970 cubic yards of 3/4 inch fill and 5,700 cubic yards of 2-inch base rock. And Dewey's estimate for that altogether is $45,600 if we were buying that outright. And then he estimated in the time of hauling, loading, et cetera, to get it to our site. And so he wrote that as $34,650, with a total of both of those together would be $89,950. So we are wondering, what the process would be for us to make that ask to the county to donate the fill. And donate the estimated 7 days of county road department time to get it here. And Dewey can fill in anything I might have left out in that.
Hey, are you ready for me, Judge?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, we have all the material is already made. We have the gravel out at the Potter Pit, and we have the 2-inch minus at the Potter Pit and the Schaefer Pit. So all the material for the project is within 2 miles of town. So it's a close, easy haul for trucks and equipment. And then as far as time frame goes, the sooner the better. I'm not for sure when the project's going to start, but I would like to, if the county agrees, to go ahead and get the material moved and stockpiled before weather hits us and we're busy doing other things.
Great. So commissioners, on the larger big picture thing, and this is what I've struggled with because we have had several people who have had requests of the road department. One of the things we've talked about previously, number one, is making sure that the road department stays whole so that when we agree to something, that's not being taken away from other county road maintenance needs. And so one of that is just confirming with Dewey that the idea would be, if we agree to that, that we would be transferring probably money into the road department's account to cover those things that we commit to from a policy perspective. But the other thing is, for these outside entities, how we want to handle these requests. So is it, one, do we want to entertain those generally? And two, if so, how those should come in. If those typically need to be part of, say, a grant request, or if we want to take them as we're doing now, just kind of case by case as they come up and have the court make decisions. And I don't have a recommendation necessarily, other than I would say that one thing we might consider is, I do think there is a difference between having another public entity, so like the school district or the city asking us for county support versus a private or nonprofit entity. In that, if we can reduce the school's costs by providing fill, then that obviously saves the taxpayers. Then that's a cost savings for them on the school side. So I do see those two as differently, but I needed some guidance because we do frequently get these kinds of requests, and I'm just not clear on how the court wants to handle receiving those requests and processing them and considering them.
Well, I agree with the point that we would be supporting another public entity that takes tax dollars from our citizens. So in that respect, we would be assisting, you know, and in the infrastructure of our, you know, of our city and our county. And so I'm not sure what the whole legal idea of what we're doing is, but what we're being asked to do.
So for instance, one thing we might look at doing is saying that for other taxing districts, we'll take those requests year round and they can come in through the county court. But for, say, a nonprofit that wanted to use the county, that needs to come in maybe through the grant request, so that it's actually part of that consideration of the counties, where the county could consider doing like a combination of cash plus in kind, you know, in that kind of, if that seems like that's a reasonable sort of approach.
That makes sense.
Leslie, does that make sense for you?
You know, as far as how to handle these types of requests in the future, I think that's going to be something that probably will need to be discussed with the new commissioner. So you guys can figure that out. I am in support of helping out the school and trying to keep this project going and within their budget. And
okay. So I think maybe what we'll do is on the broader discussion on the policy, once Pat is sworn in, I think that's a conversation that maybe if Teresa's listening, we can just flag that as something we need to take up early next year to kind of put that policy in place so we're clear. But in terms of the actual request from the school district, maybe we could dig into that for today and see where we land. It sounds like Leslie's supportive. Sherry, what are you thinking?
Oh, definitely. I think anything we can do to help another taxing entities, we need to make those steps.
Yeah, and I'm of agreement. If we can help with that, I think it, you know, one way or the other, the taxpayers are going to pay for it. Right. So if we can help smooth that process and make it a little bit less expensive for the school to get their project done. And clearly the public supports the new building. So I think the public would see that there's a benefit to this. In terms of Dewey, I just want to clarify for you that the understanding then would be, and this is the understanding from the commissioner, that we would then figure out money to backfill Dewey's budget for that $90,000. Is that the intention? Dewey, is that your intention?
No, it's entirely up to the court how they want to do this. The material's already made, so it's not material we actually have to go out and build and I guess purchase. It's a cost estimate for the project. I guess it's just there's really not a need to have to backfill the budget for the whole amount, I would say.
Okay. That makes it even easier.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to find the money.
I like that.
Okay, so is there, I think we probably would need to make a motion then. And so I don't know if there is a motion to support having the county provide the sill rock and the labor as outlined in Dewey's estimate. Or
are you making that motion?
I was going to say, it sounds like you made it. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the request from the Condon School District for the county to provide the fill and the estimated labor costs as outlined in Dewey's estimate of November 30th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the request from the Condon School District to provide the fill and the labor as outlined in Dewey's estimate dated November 30th. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Michelle, you got your fill.
Thank you, Dewey, commissioners, and judge. Truly appreciate this. It's a big deal. So thank you very much.
Great.
Yes, Michelle.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, and I will get with Michelle and try to set up a schedule, and we'll try to get this done probably during the month of December. I hope, if weather holds for us.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
And then Dewey, can you stick around just momentarily? Because I also wanted to, I don't know, Catherine, if you want to join us. I see her on there. We'll see if she'll unmute. I also had I was going to ask you, you and I had talked about the roads leading into the project and the possibility of talking to the county about doing that. Is that something that you guys still are interested in talking to us about, or should we maybe table that for early next year?
We definitely want to talk to you about it. Obviously doesn't need to be done, but it too is not in our budget for the school project. So we feel strongly that these roads are needed, at least Penoyer. And so Gib did talk to Dewey about just getting a bid for it, and we'll see what the bid comes back, but we will come back. It's an important part, and they didn't have it in their budget, and we think it needs to be done.
I actually met with Gib this morning. He gave me the list of the Condon projects, and so I hope to get him his prices by next week.
That'd be awesome.
So we'll have
and I want to know. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dewey. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's all right, Catherine. Go ahead.
What I was saying too is the projects that Gib gave to Dewey this morning included 2 other of our streets that are also on our dime that are budgeted, and that includes a special city allotment grant from ODOT that we've had on hold. That will be done, and then another patch of road that we did building up a street on Spring Street. But those 2 roads, Trimble and Penoyer, are ones that were not on our budget and not on our transportation system plan. So it'd be really hard to go out for any other grants on those. So that's why we're going to ask the county to partner with us on those 2 streets.
And Penoyer, just to clarify for the commissioners who might not be aware of this little subsection over here, it's pretty much a gravel road, isn't it, Catherine?
It's a gravel, both Trimble, well, actually all the roads. So the school's going to be responsible for Washington Street, which goes down in front of the new school, and Penoyer and Trimble are 2 roads that go off of Washington that hit Jefferson Street, and it connects to Washington that goes to the new school.
So likely maybe one of those kind of a loop as parents are dropping off kids at the elementary school and then just hanging a left and going down that street is, I think, why we're needing to have that paved.
And I can share the picture. I can email it out to you or to Teresa. And if you want to just email it to the commissioner so they can get a good grasp on what it is.
That would be great, just so we can see that. So we'll plan commissioners and commissioner-elect probably having that come back to us sometime early next year once Dewey has a chance to get his numbers pulled together and we can see what that would look like.
Yeah, Dewey said he'd have the numbers next week, but we wouldn't do the paving till next spring, is what I'm guessing, Dewey. I don't know, that's your schedule too, but I'm guessing not till next spring.
Right. It'll either be next spring or early next summer, Catherine, when that's the plan to do Spring Street. Yes.
Okay, and I'm not so sure Penoyer and Trimble, we don't want to pave until after they're done with construction.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
Right, and that's what I told, that's what I told Gib this morning. We would wait on them for sure until construction was done.
Yeah, and so that's going to be in 2022. But I wanted it on the radar that, speaking of this project, that costs weren't in the budget. These are two streets that aren't. And so, we need to talk about it.
Okay.
Got it. So
Thank you.
More to
Thanks,
come.
Julie. Okay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Catherine.
Thanks. I'll send it off to you guys. You're welcome.
Great. Okay. Anything more on the school staff or questions? And we'll just plan on having that broader policy discussion early next year, and then also taking up the request from the city for those roads. Okay. Last thing on the agenda is to discuss and possible action on North Central Public Health District request for director recruitment funding. And I see we have Shirley Campbell with us, but I'll just tee this up, or Leslie, do you want to tee this up?
Sure. I just found out within the half hour that Wasco County has approved this request as well. Sherman County approved it prior, and Wasco County just did it today. So Public Health is asking for some additional funding in the amount of $2,500 from each of the 3 counties, and then also the Public Health District is planning on kicking in $2,500 as well. For a total of $10,000 to be able to hire a local recruitment firm to help with the director search. And I did ask Shirley if she could call in case we had any tough questions. She's here to answer for us. But I support it. The other counties have already made the decision, and I think it would be helpful for the Public Health District to go with someone other than just our staff to try to help us find the best, director we can. Shirley, you have any?
So I'll just share with you, if it's okay, just a little bit of the background that might help clarify the request. So back in July, our director retired and I stepped in as the interim director. I have been in that role during the pandemic, and also been serving in the role of the clinical program supervisor, which is my previous role, or my current role as well. And just really for the stability of public health and the work and the support of our staff, it's really crucial that we move this forward and find a director to take the role and move into this position. It's a huge support of all 3 counties to make sure we have a director in the role. And our staff currently, as you know, I think you know and can imagine, during this pandemic has really been stretched thin. We've done a lot of hiring for our COVID team, contact investigators, all the different people that are moving the work forward. And that's put a great strain on our, what I would call our HR department, which we don't actually have an HR department. We have a person that maybe a quarter of her time is spent on HR. So really to find a qualified director to apply for the role is going to take quite a bit of time. And that's why it was recommended to the Board of Health and then by the Board of Health to you to support the recruitment of this. And really we went with a fairly local person so that they know the communities, as well as it was more cost benefit. $10,000 is really a fairly smaller amount than what you would get from a larger recruit firm. Typically those run around $30,000 to $40,000. And we have it guaranteed that it will not exceed that amount.
Shirley, do you have any questions?
I don't believe I do.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think particularly in a pandemic to make sure that we're putting in place leadership at public health that you know, that we're getting the best sort of pool of candidates as possible, and obviously public health is already under tremendous strain just keeping up with the pandemic. So I think it makes some sense to give them the resources to go to have that assistance in recruiting for the top jobs. So I would be supportive of it. In terms of where the money would come from, I still need to touch base with Kelly and Nathan about whether we would just overspend that particular line item or whether we would take it out of the SIP discretionary. But
I did talk to Nathan a little bit about it, because my first thought was to go ahead and just take it out of the line item, because looking at it, you know, if we overspend that, there are a few categories within that total materials and services within that fund that are not going to be spent. So we would be okay to take it out of that line. And Nathan agreed, but you guys can work that. You guys can work that out.
Yeah, if we decide we want to move forward, I'll work with Nathan and Kelly to figure out where the funds need to come out of. But so do we have a motion on the request from North Central Public Health?
I would move to approve the funding request of $2,500 from the North Central Public Health District for recruitment services of a new director.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the funding request of $2,500 from North Central Public Health District for recruitment services of a new director. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Shirley, if you guys can send an invoice either through Commissioner Weatherall or directly to Teresa in my office, we can get that coded in through AP, and I'll work with Kelly and Nathan to figure out where we need to take the funds out of.
Okay, thank you. We really appreciate your support on this.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you.
All right, so we are almost ready to wrap up. We are on 8.0, which is announcements and next meeting. In terms of next, first announcement is that this is my last meeting, I think, probably before the baby comes. So, so I will be on maternity leave starting here in the next couple of days, probably. I'll still be checking my messages, but I'm in prenatal quarantine so that I don't accidentally come into contact with COVID and prevent Brian from getting to be in the delivery room. So I'll be working from home for the next week or so. And so the question I would have is, commissioners, is there a need for a special meeting or a plan for a meeting that you already have in the works that you know about, or otherwise we'll just notice it once we know about it, kind of thing?
Yeah, I've been working with Lisa and Leslie about scheduling a special meeting to take care of some of the issues that we'll need to finalize before the end of the year. So that's still a work in progress. We're negotiating. It's difficult during the holidays to make sure we get the dates we need. So we're working through it.
So public, stay tuned for potential additional public meetings in December. And then the new court will be meeting effective on January 6th. So Commissioner-elect Shannon will be sworn in on the 4th. And then it sounds like the plan is to continue that first and third schedule in the new year. Do I have that right?
Yeah, any agenda items that we might need to take care of until you're back from your maternity leave, we are prepared to take that on.
Great. So those will be, that's our next, those are our next meeting dates. Any announcements or things that you guys wanted to put on the radar?
I don't think so. I have Capco meeting on Friday and Norcor on Thursday the 17th. So those are my two things, and besides some of the other things I'm working on right now.
Leslie?
I had a couple things. I had a question, and then I was going to give just a little bit of information on, we are not having a public health meeting this month. They canceled it, but just as far as just a very quick update on COVID, Wasco, I was going to give you guys some numbers, and I emailed the county court an email today with a slideshow presentation from Dr. Mimi, because she went to the Wasco County meeting today, and both Mimi and Shirley have indicated to me that they would be more than happy to come to any of our meetings if you guys wanted a thorough update from public health and on COVID especially. But Wasco County, it looks like the total number of cases as of probably yesterday were 538. 330 have recovered, and there have been 19 deaths. Sherman County numbers are total cases 23, recovered 20, and Gilliam County total cases are 23 and recovered are 11. They also indicated to me that you can get a free flu shot if somebody wants to go into the Dalles and go into public health. The COVID vax will arrive in Oregon mid-December. And as far as the prioritization, it's going to be frontline healthcare workers, other healthcare workers and essential workers, and residents of long-term health facilities first. The critical populations will be the first on that. You all know, because you guys have seen the emails, but you know, the Wasco County was included in the extreme risk category, but Sherman County and Gilliam County are in low risk category. So our, you know, there's a whole chart and everything on the requirements for the different risk categories, but we're doing pretty well because we're in low risk. And then the other thing I was going to ask is, this is just a red zone question that I have because it occurred to me at some point in time that I'm uncertain as to who the taxing districts are. What are the taxing districts that are going to be affected by the red zone conversation we had at the last meeting? So I was wondering if anybody could tell me that.
I can tell you that.
Thank you.
I can tell you that. The Arlington School District, North Central ESD, Gilliam County, Port of Arlington, North Gilliam County Health District, North Gilliam County Cemetery District, and the North Gilliam County Rural Fire District are in the zone that would be affected.
Okay, thank you. Because, you know, moving forward, now that I know that the cemetery district, the North Gilliam County Cemetery District, I'll probably, you know, at points where we get into the conversations, I will probably have to declare a potential conflict because I do their bookkeeping. So it's good to know that they are in the affected group. I feel like I had one more thing.
Well, and I'm curious too, maybe this is something we should run by council, but I'm assuming because it's countywide, even though the specific project only affects the north end, I wonder if the south end districts also have to be notified, because if there was a project in the south end, they would also give up their revenue. So just something to put on your radar, Sherry, we might have to look into.
I'll talk to Tommy about it.
Okay, and then there was just one other thing that I wanted to mention with the judge's upcoming leave. Congratulations, we're all very excited. But with your upcoming leave, as far as maybe an effort to improve communications and just keep the county commissioners in the loop, not so much myself, but our new county commissioner, I was wondering if possibly something like a weekly email from our chief of staff, just to let the commissioners know, especially with the the judge not being in the building, that if that might be something that you guys might consider moving forward, especially while you're busy, otherwise busy. It might help. It might help them just to know what's happening, just to know what's going on at the courthouse and stuff. If there was like a weekly update, just something I was thinking about.
Yeah, and the other thing too, so the commissioners know, both the current commissioners and the commissioner-elect, I am planning on putting together a little memo, maternity leave memo on all of the pending projects that I've sort of got balls in the air, and sort of who the contact person is, and sort of handing those off initially to staff, but expect that Lisa and Teresa might be reaching out to the commissioners to take the lead on certain projects, just so there's some continuity, so that we don't lose momentum on some of these projects that we've got moving forward. Other announcements. I will note that the Frontier Telenet board is meeting next week, next Thursday at 10 a.m. over Zoom. So that public notice went out last night. And then the other thing I want to do, just on a personal note, because this will be maybe the last time the three of us get together, is really just to acknowledge Leslie and say thank you for your service to the county, and tell you what a pleasure it's been to work with you, and that you will be missed. And yeah, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss that opportunity to say it has been a pleasure having you be part of the team.
I appreciate that, and it has been a pleasure working with all of you as well. I'm going to try to come over. I have some business I need to take care of, some minutes to sign and probably some AP to approve, and so I'm going to try to possibly come over, and Teresa suggested maybe on the 16th, so I am going to try to see if I can make it over on the 16th and say goodbye to everybody and harass the county courthouse staff one more time.
For old time's sake.
Yeah.
And then in a similar, oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I'm going to continue to use her brain, so I'm not saying goodbye.
Thank you.
It's not goodbye. It's good luck. And then in a similar vein, since Pat will start before I'm back, I also just wanted to take the opportunity to welcome Pat to the team as well. And I think this is going to be, change is always an interesting thing to navigate, but I think you've already expressed you have some projects you want to tackle and some ideas that you want to get after. And so, so I also wanted to extend that welcome to you as well. And thank you also.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I said just thank you. I'm really looking forward to working with you and Sherry. So, and I'll probably be leaning on Leslie a little too. So thanks.
Feel free.
So your job is not done, Leslie. You have not escaped.
No, I think once you're in, and we're going to tap you for other committees and your expertise. So
how do you feel about a seat on the Planning Commission?
I was just waiting. I was
right.
That.
Yes. Do it.
There you go.
I'll have to think about that.
All right. Well, any other notices or announcements for the good of the order? If not, it is right at 1 o'clock, and I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Bye, everybody.